All right, welcome into another live HoosierIllustrated.com Indiana basketball postgame wrap-up show. John Alden from In Touch with Indiana Sports with you, and Kyler Staley, basketball recruiting analyst of HoosierIllustrated.com with you. After Indiana's 79-78 defeat at home, Big Ten matchup, and I was telling you this right before we got rolling, Kyler. This is the first time that me as a fan, I've been really genuinely just kind of pissed at the way things played out at the end of the game. And I kind of want to start there with the missed walk call. I mean, that's 100% what it was. I don't remember which Maryland player it was that did the alleged travel, or I guess not so much a travel. But what are your thoughts on the no call there and just kind of what it ended up leading to?
I think it's fair to say that this is one of the more frustrating games, and obviously there's been a lot of frustrating games this season for Indiana, but just in terms of the fact that, and I'll never be one to really blame officiating for wins and losses, and even though you can kind of see a lot of times that it is determined that way, but yeah, blatantly missed it at the end there. Bad no call, which led to Maryland hitting that three. And, honestly, as soon as Maryland hit that three, and I can't remember off the top of my head who the player was that hit the three, and then they took the lead, the 79-78 lead. It's like you actually saw the air of Assembly Hall just kind of release. And there's just no more, I don't know, there's just more of people just pissed off more than anything, especially when you get down to the final 5 seconds and you're seeing the fans and you're seeing everybody react to the subbing and the substitution patterns. Yeah. You could probably hear it on TV, the boos when Anthony Leal was taken out. And, it's a recipe for disaster in a lot of ways. And they didn't run anything well, with the final 5 seconds to hopefully get a last-second shot. But it's frustrating in the fact, too, because Indiana was down, I think, by as much as 9. And honestly, this team has not been a team that's been built to come back from huge deficits. And they actually did that today. And you got to credit Miles Rice and, of course, the hometown hero, Anthony Leal, who right here tonight showed why he is Indiana's, he leads everything that what Indiana represents and stuff. And he stepped up and made some big plays. And that's Indiana for them to lose this game, with the fact that Anthony Leal stepped up when they needed to. And Miles Rice stepping up, and Mackenzie Bacco played pretty well for most of the game as well. It's just, I don't know what you can fully blame it on as far as why they lost tonight. I'm sure a lot of people will blame it on Mike Woodson, and
and in the spirit of I know I started this off by mentioning the call just because it was a big no call down the stretch, but in the spirit of not blaming things on the referee, right before that initial play that caused all of this discussion that we're having right now, Trey Galloway misses the front end of a 1-and-1, and you're not in that situation if you take care of business and make 2 free throws.
Very good point. And Indiana finished free throws. Let me look at the stats here. 7-9 on free throws, or no, 9 of 15.
9 of 15.
They left a lot of points, 6 points at the line tonight, and that is super frustrating because Trey Galloway's a senior, man. He knows the high stakes, the pressure situations there. You want your senior to come in clutch in those types of situations. And tonight, I mean, I think a lot of times too, Indiana would go to the free throw line pretty relaxed, pretty chilled or whatever and stuff. But that's just pathetic because honestly, this game's probably going into overtime, if Trey Galloway were to hit both those free throws. But yeah, frustrating, that's what started it. But I think Indiana just throughout the entire game, there's a lot of opportunities for them to just kind of take care of this game, take control of this game. And they just never did that. I tweeted a few times, during this game, Indiana's just a team that just likes to hang around, with any team that they play, regardless of who the opponent is. And a lot of times, so what is this, their 6th, 7th loss of the season?
We're now 14-7.
14-7. So 7 times this season, other, blowouts and stuff. If you hang around with a team, the better team's going to win. And Indiana, and tonight, Maryland was the better team. And Indiana loses back-to-back home games, and it's very head-scratching right now, and it's hard to wrap your head around why that is right now.
From the YouTube comment section, Jackson Ryan says, I do think the staff deserves credit for the adjustments made at the under 8 between going to a zone and getting Malik going. I agree with that. I do think there were moments when Indiana was in that zone where you kind of felt like, okay, Maryland's doing pretty good from behind the arc. Maybe you don't want to stick with this forever, but I do think it did sort of provide a spark down the stretch that was really needed at that point in the game.
Yeah, I mean, there were some good adjustments at times for this game, but I just felt like when the adjustments were needed, they just weren't fully there yet. But he does make a good point. You know, the under 8, I thought Malik finally got going or whatever. You know, Malik coming from a big injury that obviously forced him to miss an extended period amount of time for him to get his basketball legs underneath him. I thought you kind of saw him back to the old Malik a little bit, but I mean, the spacing today, man, was just horrific with Malik and Ballo on the floor at the same time, and it's very, very head scratching to me when Luke Goody, I feel like arguably has been Indiana's best player over the past few weeks. For him not to be in the starting lineup still is very head scratching, and that's the word right now with this Indiana team. It's head scratching. There's a lot of things they do that just doesn't make sense. And that results in 7 losses already this season. And right now, this loss right here, this may have sealed their fate when it comes to the play tournament, man, because this next stretch that they got, unless they can just somehow put it together and get some big wins, I mean, your next game's on the road against Purdue, and that's your rival, and it's a recipe for disaster right now. And there's no positive things that you can come out of other than Indiana's still got opportunities left, but, you know, can't trust this team to take advantage of those opportunities.
I had mentioned earlier this week that I think that we would know whether or not what Indiana's fate would be by the time they got through this 4 to 5 game stretch that they have coming up. And I wasn't really including this Maryland game, but it really, I hate the fact that I didn't include it, because I think now that we know how important this win was to potentially push them forward into this stretch, now it feels like what's ahead for them is a whole lot less possible than what it used to be. Not that they have to win every single game in order to turn their season around, but you do need to come out, if you have any sort of aspiration to make the postseason, you've got to find a way to win 3 or 4, and it's probably asking too much for this Indiana team. And I hate saying that, because that should not be what Indiana basketball is all about. I know that, you know that, everybody listening knows that, and I think that really just shows where we are right now with the state of the program. And it's been unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we're in this spot at this point in the season right now.
I think the frustrating part is that it's just become too common with Indiana being a bubble team and being a game where it feels like every single game, you know, is a must-win game. And you can't ever go into a game saying like, okay, if we lose this game, it's not the end of the world or whatever. But now you're at the point where every game's a must-win game, and you know they go on the road at Purdue. They got Michigan coming in soon, a good UCLA team coming in soon, and they got
Michigan State as well.
Yeah, so this
Wisconsin.
next month,
it's literally just full of teams that are really good teams are up left on your schedule.
That's the annoying part is too. It's like all those are opportunities, right? And that's a lot of opportunities that most teams around the country that are in the similar position don't have. And the frustrating part is that Indiana doesn't seem to realize that in a certain sense. It's like, okay, we can shut a lot of people up if we can take care of business and go on a good run here. This Indiana team has proven that they cannot do that. They don't have that within themselves to do that. So they're in a tough spot right now. And me personally, I don't see any way that they get out of this just because they haven't shown that they can do that. Losing at home against a Maryland team that was winless coming into this game on the road.
No, that's not true. They did beat Illinois on the road.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Forgot about that. They smoked Illinois, and Illinois smoked Indiana. So Big Ten's weird, man. Big Ten's really weird. But credit for Maryland. They came in. Derek Queen looked really, really good. I thought he did a really good job against Omar Ballo. So Maryland's a really good team, man. Really, really good team. And then they came in and they competed against Indiana, and they came out victorious.
Let's go back to YouTube comments real quick. Rob Dust says, guys arguing and frustrated about assignments this late in the season shows bad culture. And I don't know if this is the exact same thing, but that comment just kind of reminds me of, there were multiple times, this was maybe more so in the first half as opposed to the second half, a lot of guys just looking confused anytime Maryland would get an easy bucket, looking toward other guys like, why did you not go get that guy whenever it should be? Even if it's not necessarily your assignment, if you see somebody's open, your instinct should be to go cover that guy. Is that not the way that it should be, Kyler? Or am I just full of it?
No. I think you're onto something. Obviously, for me, it just comes down to communication or whatever. You should know what your assignment is. That's your assignment. That's what the coaching staff gives you. That's the game plan. But too many times there were defensive breakdowns for Indiana, and it allowed Maryland to extend the lead to 9, to hit these big shots and stay within striking distance. Even when Indiana went up, I think at 5, within the final 2 minutes or so, it's just defensive breakdowns, and it's not. I wouldn't say it's not knowing your assignment. It's just not being able to adjust when things happen, and that comes down to communication. Nobody on this team is on the defensive end is communicating well, or at least they don't have the right guys in the game at the right time for them to be able to communicate on the defensive end. So there's been too many defensive breakdowns for this Indiana team this year, and tonight was just another example of that.
Well, again, with that, Indiana falls to Maryland 79-78. And again, what really felt like a must-win game. And we mentioned earlier on, if you missed the beginning of the show, we did mention the no call. But at the same time, there were plenty of other things that could have changed the outcome of this game other than missed call by the officials. So unfortunate result for Indiana. They'll be back in action against Purdue on January 31st. And, it's not a good spot to be in right now going into this game for Indiana. And we'll talk more about that, of course, coming up this week. Kyler, I'm sure you and the rest of the HoosierIllustrated.com staff will have plenty of things coming up later this week as well.
Yep, it's Purdue week. It's here, and I think a lot of fans are going to be dreading this game, but we'll have plenty of that. So the last thing I'm going to say is, you're playing up for pride at this point, right? You're going into Purdue and you're playing your number one rival, the team that you hate the most. Play with some pride and act like you want to be there and act like you want to compete. That's all I got to say.
And I'll say, this is the last thing I'll say. If it's a bloodbath in West Lafayette, based on what we've seen, I'm not saying Indiana would pull the trigger and let go of Mike Woodson right after that, but the noise will certainly ramp up to a level that we probably haven't seen if it becomes ugly up in West Lafayette later this week.
The noise already right now is very, very, I'll just say it's very, very toxic right now. Yeah. So, and you go in there, and if you get blown out by your number one rival, there's going to be some conversations that need to be had. On top of the ones that are already being had at this point.
All right. We'll wrap it up real quick. Just last thing, though. I got getting ready. Kyler, I know I showed you this before. You pointed it out. I'm looking forward to a little Bills Chiefs action later this evening. That's unfortunate for you being a Patriots fan. Do you hate the Chiefs more than you hate the Bills, or with the fact that they're division rivals, do you hate the Bills more so than the Chiefs?
I can't think of a worse game in the world right now. Let's just say that. I'm not a big fan of, I call them the table breakers. I'm not a big fan of them. Yeah. Completely, I'll just be honest with you, completely do not like their fan base. I've never liked the Bills, but it's a heavyweight showdown. Let's just say that. So 2 really good teams. And I guess if I did have to pick a team, I'm tired of seeing the Chiefs.
There we go.
I'm tired of it. So let's see something different. How about that? Let's just see something different. But I will not be enjoying watching this game. Let's just say that.
Well, there we go. We'll wrap it up on that note. Be sure to check out everything else going on at HoosierIllustrated.com as well. Subscribe to Hoosier Illustrated on YouTube to know every time the different videos getting posted. Of course, in touch with Indiana sports Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and talking about the Hoosiers as well, typically on Thursdays, but sometimes those get released on different days as well. So until Monday, this has been another live edition of the HoosierIllustrated.com Indiana basketball post-game wrap-up show.